Welcome to the Filmistines, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistine. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I am joined by my McFly friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
Remember, you can join us every Monday and Friday for brand new episodes of the Filmistines, and every other Wednesday on patreon.com/Filmistines for Patreon exclusive episodes, like our recent Patreon exclusive episode where we discussed the Saw franchise. Lots of fighting words exchanged. Some other recent episodes include the wonderful Minari, Twisters, the new Deadpool and Wolverine, and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe. Come request a movie for $1. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at HempvilleCBD.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we will be discussing the 1985 classic, Robert Zemeckis' Back to the Future. Now, I will say right off the top, I think when I was a youngin', Back to the Future was the very first movie I saw, and I said to myself, maybe old movies don't suck. I think we've all been there. A time or two. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprisingly a fan of some of the older movies, and it gets me every time.
You're like, oh yeah, I do like that old snoozer. When I watch Back to the Future today, it just makes me think, wow, Marvel thinks it's Back to the Future. Wow, these things think they're Back to the Future, where they have these really great stories and everything, where everything said and happens matters, when most of the time things don't matter in movies, like Marvel.
You want to fight again today? We didn't fight enough in our Deadpool and Wolverine episode?
Are you Deadpool, or am I Deadpool? Or Wolverine?
Oh, I'm definitely Deadpool. I'm definitely the fun one here.
I'm Wolverine. I'm the grump.
You're the grump. Yeah, exactly.
This film has some of the best writing a film can have as far as beat-to-beat storytelling. Not an experiential kind of situation here. It doesn't waste any time. It's got all your bells and whistles and clocks and lightning and cars and skateboards and rock and roll. And I'll tell you, my favorite part of the whole movie is at the very beginning when we're getting this panoramic shot of all these clocks and docks. Garage is when we have that little dude hanging on one of the clock hands. And then we later see that with Doc. I love it. I look forward to that when I watch this film. I've probably seen this movie 6 times maybe. I look forward to that moment. You're a fake hater of old movies?
Yeah. Maybe I'm just in denial. I don't know.
Well, what do you think about the most significant nerd culture film of the 80s?
Yeah, I like this movie quite a lot. I can say that this movie stands the test of time. As someone who has never seen this before in their late 20s, it's the perfect blend of science fiction, this action-adventure type of movie, with a little bit of comedy, a little bit of humor in this. And it just creates this wonderful story about family and consequences. This movie has the ability to resonate with an audience across several decades.
Maybe for all of time, because it's such a specific feeling that we all share, that we all feel is so maybe just unique to us. And it's that feeling realizing when your parents were kids, they have interests, they have lives outside of being your parent. And of course you realize that when you're youngin', or I hope you do. But that's always a fun moment when revisiting this film and Marty re-experiencing his parents.
No, I completely agree with you. Finding out that your parents had lives is always such a weird thing. I remember finding drawings that my dad did, kind of these architectural drawings, and just being amazed that my father could do that. Like, what? You're just a dad that goes to work and comes home. And this movie has such a cultural significance and an impact on today's film and TV shows that it really shouldn't surprise anyone that this is a good movie. You know, spawning shows like Rick and Morty, which I didn't get it till someone said it. I was like, oh my god, that's genius. And I think the TV show was originally going to be called Adventures of something and Marty, but like kind of misspelled. So there's like this direct influence. I love that the movie has this awesome, brisk pacing, keeping you engaged the whole time. I wasn't bored at any point whatsoever. The characters are pretty endearing and captivating. I love this idea of a mad scientist because we don't tend to see him a lot. And when we do see this mad scientist persona, they're always bringing someone back from the dead or doing some kind of shady shit, like sewing body parts where they shouldn't be. I don't know.
Yeah, they're not lovable characters.
Yeah, they're not lovable characters. Exactly. And I'm right there with you. It has some of the best writing, keeping this very tightly constructed narrative. The cinematography is pretty cool, and I'm sure it was freaking awesome at its time. I've seen quite a few 80s movies, and none of them look anywhere near what this movie looks like. And I think this movie is helping me define more and more what I love about 80s films. The language in this movie is not censored whatsoever. And it comes with this kind of like fuck it attitude with these underlying optimistic tones for the future, for the character's future, for our future as a generation. Or their generation, I guess. I'm not part of that generation. But they have these very charming themes. And I think I covered that a little bit in our Karate Kid episode. But they have these universal themes. And not that films today don't have these themes, but just the way they're expressed. It just seems like we've forgotten what the meaning of pride is, or what the meaning of friendship is, family, or self-discovery.
So what do you think of our plot? We're introduced to Marty very quickly. He's looking for Doc. Him and Doc get mixed up in this Lebanese thing where they got rocket launchers and shit.
Yeah.
Marty gets in the DeLorean. He goes back in time to when his parents were in high school, and Doc first considered what it would take to travel through time. Marty runs into his child parents before Doc. Then he meets up with Doc. Doc's like, you haven't talked to anyone else, have you? Marty's like, oh shit. Now he has a mission to make sure that his parents hook up so his life at least isn't ruined. And then we're off.
Yeah, it's very well developed. We have a lot of suspense. And we have these sci-fi elements that I absolutely love. I love the concept of the butterfly effect with a little bit of the ripple effect sprinkled in. It's a big rule in time travel, right?
Yeah, sure.
Never interact with anything else that's going to fuck up your timeline. It's going to have these detrimental consequences to your life. And the first time I came across that butterfly effect was in the famous Ray Bradbury's short story, A Sound of Thunder. And I remember just being awed by this concept of not only time traveling, but anything as small as deviating from the path can have such long-lasting effects. And I mean, I was just awed by that concept, and I love it here. I love it being applied here. besides the cool technology and science fiction universes, this might be one of my favorite ones. These consequences of time traveling. And it pretty much spawns the rest of the film. The way everything happens is just so organic. Whatever happened in this one scene makes sense to what's about to happen in the next scene and so on. I mean, it's like you said earlier, very attributed to the good writing of the film, and probably one of the best relationships. And the movie is, of course, Marty and Doc's relationship. And I know there's this big question of what is their relationship? Who are they to each other? But is it so beautiful that this movie is so well done that it doesn't matter? And I think we question that today, mostly because we have this concept of mentorship being lost. Because we have the Karate Kid, I mean, right around the corner, right? I think it was 84, and this movie's 85. So it just tells me that this idea was big back then. Or maybe just making friendships with random people, kids and adults alike, could all be friends. I don't know. But there's this very big idea of being mentored.
Yeah, that's probably one reason people are really attracted to the Iron Man, Spider-Man relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. The mom being attracted to Marty is hilarious. And I don't know if that would work today. Especially seeing them kiss on screen with the audience knowing that we know that's his mom. He knows that's his mom.
Yeah, you can see in a world today where people forget to have fun with funny kind of phenomenon that happens. Of course, I'm referring to GSA. And I have a little bit of a problem with the effects of time travel. Because on one hand, it feels very romantic and egotistical to think that, especially us going back in time, would have this kind of effect to this large degree. And I don't know what it is in me when I think, okay, so what if Marty got in between George and his mom, his dad and his mom, hooking up in high school, making the family? It wouldn't be a very big consequence in the grand scheme of time travel if that was to not happen. Marty wouldn't exist. I mean, okay, but also the presence of the time travel and Marty going back and ultimately helping them get together implies some sense of destiny or maybe lack of free will. This is where the romantic kind of egotistical thing maybe comes into play with humans altering the last 30 years. Marty setting up George to try to win Lorraine, and it ends up being Biff in the car and they get in a little fight. And that being the moment where George stands up for himself and basically makes Biff a servant, it kind of negates the whole 16 years of conditioning that George previously went through. Like, this is not going to have this kind of effect on George. This is going to be one stepping stone that of many maybe we didn't see, I guess.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need that little push.
Yeah. I guess I'm missing some of the lineage of how George became this corporateer or whatever he is.
Well, he wrote a book.
Oh, he wrote a book, that's right.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of think the butterfly effect is a silly concept and is rooted in a very humanitarian, egotistical lens, and obviously totally corrupted by the effects we think we have on the greater picture of, I guess, our planet. Really, in our case, that's it.
Yeah, we have to remember that the butterfly effect, I believe, was coined by Ray Bradbury, who is an American writer. Very imaginative, not from any source of...
And very egocentric, coming from America.
Yes. Yeah, of course. And, I mean, I'm sure there's some scientific background there that he was inspired by, but completely told this story that every generation reads in high school and makes us believe that one small change can have crazy consequences. Yes, is it rooted in reality? Maybe, maybe not. You know how how much is your life going to change if you don't do that one small thing you were supposed to do? I don't know. I have forgotten to pay a bill. You know what? I get overdrafted, so maybe I should have paid the bill. Like, there's consequences to the things you do.
And there's something romantic in the thought of, like,
of course,
what if this thing, whatever.
That's why I love it.
There's, like, something so rooted in fiction about it that I have a hard time stomaching. I don't know what that is. It's just obnoxious to put so much power in such a meaningless plot device unless you're in a time travel situation.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it would be even applicable anywhere else because it's kind of just a non-issue. It's a non-question. It's not something that can even be acknowledged.
Right. It would not make sense in a non-time traveling setting. And this is where I think a little bit of that 80s charm comes into place with these underlying optimism tones. This everything has to end positive. Maybe that's why I love them.
And we don't stick around on the effects too much. They're not important to the plot as far as exposition.
Right.
They are the next catalyst. They are the next problem.
Right. They're not important to what this movie is about. A beautiful plot device? Yes, to me, I guess. But it's not what the story is about.
Yeah, I've never met anyone, not yet, who is sort of anti-butterfly effect.
Oh, people love it.
I'm not crazy about it. Maybe I need to come around to it.
Yeah, you might just not be a romantic person.
There may be something to that.
Your favorite romances where they don't end up together.
500 Days of Summer.
Exactly. That's not, no.
In
Get
La
out
La
of
Land.
here.
There's an ego wrapped up in the butterfly effect that I'm just not crazy about yet. I'll come around.
And the butterfly effect can also represent the importance of being careful. The guy in the story who steps on the butterfly should have been more careful. He stepped on the butterfly because he was scared of whatever was about to happen, and he ran off the path that he was supposed to be on, and you weren't supposed to get off this path because it could have the effects. But because of his impulsive reaction, it had these consequences to his life. Maybe, yeah, crazy to think it had these really crazy consequences to his future, to his family in the future, whatever. But it was something he could have prevented if he was just more careful. I don't think it's quite applicable here. Marty was just trying to save another human being, not even realizing it was his dad.
Yeah, he already messed up and then was told, don't talk to anybody, you're gonna mess some shit up. And then he's like, oh man, I did on accident.
So I think the butterfly effect is an awesome tool when it's used, correctly.
Yeah, I don't know if it can be written into a story that doesn't revolve around time travel.
Or something like that, yeah. And the story can't be super extra, super exaggerated to where it just doesn't make sense. Like Mr. Bradbury's story, that one doesn't really make sense, but, his is more of a symbolic piece more than anything. How is stepping on one butterfly going to affect the political issues that are going on in his world? Like, what? Okay, calm down. But we didn't exaggerate it here. We used it very, very well. And you bringing up Marvel makes me think of how crazy we've gotten with timelines and time traveling and all these things when we can just create a masterful story like this, or even one as simple as Harry, Ron, and Hermione, or I guess it's just Harry and Hermione time traveling in The Prisoner of Azkaban. That's probably one of the coolest times I've seen a time traveling story with the butterfly effect kind of being mentioned. She tells them, don't let anybody see you, don't let anybody look at us because we could fuck up time. And that's why such a limited amount of witches and wizards can have the time traveling device. And I know you briefly brought it up in the beginning of the episode where we have Marty learning that his parents are actual people. And it's one of the themes I love about the film because he starts to understand and appreciate his mom and dad. Because in the beginning of the film, we see them, his dad's very aloof. He's just watching TV and laughing at TV while the rest of the family is sitting at the dinner table. And the mom is just drinking. She's not really paying a lot of attention to what's going on to their family. She's telling the daughter, like, what she should and shouldn't be taking from a man. I don't know. She's lecturing them. And through Marty, they learn, and he learns a lot about understanding and being prideful, standing up for yourself. And it's very well done. So we see the mom and dad as youngins and as adults. What did you think about the aging or de-aging? I don't know. I don't know what they actually were supposed to look like.
Yeah, they both look a little off, especially Lorraine.
Should we have casted different people to play the parents or the younger version of them, whichever one? Because I think we also age up Doc, but as we all know, there's a certain point in your life where you kind of look the same for years and years.
Yeah, and going from, 16, 17 to middle age, that's a gap.
Yeah.
But going from 50 to 80, maybe not as big of a gap.
Yeah.
As far as how you look. Yeah, Doc looks fine. I didn't even question that one. And his dad, George, looks better than Lorraine, but Lorraine looks weird. She looks like something she looks a little bit like the lady in the radiator in Eraserhead.
Yeah, I don't think I remember what she looks like, but she must have looked rough.
She's looking rough. And there's something really future-proof about kind of comparing the obsession of watching TV screens and drinking, or drinking too much, and growing up in the age of screens and seeing those effects on every corner of your life. And how, yes, it may not hurt your heart in the same way, but how it has completely devastated our ability to focus and communicate.
Whoa.
So there's something kind of actually comparable to those two extremes. Of course, in the 80s, this was the embryonic stage of the fear of the effects of watching TV.
Yeah, that's such a weird thing. And it's such a weird thing that it's mainly for dads. Because in Stranger Things, we also have the dad that's in the living room on the recliner watching way too much TV and not paying attention.
Yeah, that specifically doesn't ring true in any shape or form today, does it? Because we're all obsessed with our little devices.
Yeah.
In some way or another.
Except my dad.
Except your
my
dad. Yeah. He's not hanging out on Facebook 8 hours a day?
No.
Like
no,
all
he's
parents?
Not. Nope. I think he just learned what Facebook was like last year and found out he could look at photos of his family.
Oh, nice.
And he just discovered he could watch soccer games on YouTube.
Oh, it's game over.
It's game over.
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah, now he might be like us, yeah. I'm not sure if I have a favorite scene.
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite scene. I just like that bookendy thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I just love waiting for it, basically.
I do like the scene where he's showing Marty where Einstein can time travel, which that's an adorable dog name, by the way. We're introduced to Doc, first of all, because we heard him on the phone earlier and you're like, what the fuck? We're introduced to the DeLorean as a time machine. I mean, that is the most iconic prop.
Yeah, you said it when we were watching. You were like, they must have known that this was going to be such a symbol of 1980s cinema.
Yes, the way they shot that first glance of the DeLorean was so slow-mo, like just like this sexy pan up of the car. I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome.
They're gonna love this.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's probably the most iconic car to all of movies.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. We see all the tech inside. We see the controllers. I mean, it's an awesome scene. And we're parked outside a mall by a JCPenney, which that just looks weird. It looks jarring.
It looks cheap.
I don't know. I don't know if it looks cheap. It just looks like a what the fuck. It looks kind of dystopian. But we also had a JCPenney scene in Civil War, that movie about the journalists. And they were in a parking lot with that JCPenney right behind them too. And I was wondering, whoa, is that the same like set place? I don't know. I doubt it.
That's weird. That's very weird.
But it was weird.
Was that a nod
I don't know.
Back to the Future?
I don't know. But that was weird. It was cool here. I liked it. It felt very naughty. Like I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be watching this at a mall late at night. And then we have these fucking terrorists come up and you're like, wait, I really shouldn't be here. And I guess before they show up, we have the time travel scene itself with the DeLorean going 80 miles per hour and leaving these crazy fire trails, which looks so bad. But I mean, that's with the time. We couldn't have done better then. But that's probably the most iconic scene of the movie, next to Marty's skateboard scene.
Oh yeah, the skateboard scene's probably the bigger one.
You think so?
Yeah.
I just feel like that introduction to the DeLorean is so beautiful that how can that not be so iconic?
Why were those kids on these, skateboard scooter things, and for their handlebars they had like crates? It was like a ride from like 1880 or something. I feel like they're a little still too modern to be riding something. It's like, you're gonna whip out the hoop and stick next?
That's hilarious. Which I love that, by the way, that Marty invented skateboarding. Marty invented rock and roll. He was also very consequential to the mayor running. I mean, this man played a big part in a lot of people's lives, which is where that sprinkle of the ripple effect comes in.
Yeah, but that almost implies that there's this cyclical kind of thing where in Marty's timeline, a Marty further in the future already put all these things into motion, like the guy running for mayor or the clock tower not working.
Mm-hmm.
But then why all of a sudden is the mall different? His dad is successful.
I don't know. I haven't seen Back to the Future 2 or 3. I did want to give a shout out to the pop rock soundtrack we had in this movie. I also think that's iconic to the 80s, which is probably why I love it. It really fits in with this rugged, fuck it attitude we have going on. I mean, it ties everything so well. That introduction is pretty wild. I know you mentioned a clock having Doc about to fall. Is he hanging on by a hand? I don't know, but it looked cool. I went back, saw the introduction again, paused it there. That's awesome. If you wouldn't have told me, I don't think I would have seen it until maybe the 10th to 20th time I rewatched this. Because there's so much going on in this introduction that it's insane. We have a lot of clocks here. We have weird clocks, plain clocks, red clocks, blue clocks, 1 clock, 2 clocks.
Clocks that are right twice a day.
Clocks that are here, clocks that are there. Lots of clocks. And you're like, what the fuck? What is going on? Then you have this weird newspaper clipping that says Brown Mansion destroyed. And I'm like, what the fuck is that about? Because I went back and paused it there. And no one seems to know what that means. Doc's mansion that we see in 1955, he had a really nice house, somehow got burned. There's theories that he did it for the insurance money, so he could get money to spawn this project, the time traveling project, which is hilarious because it totally fits with his personality. Because next we have this coffee pot that starts making coffee, but there's no coffee and there's no pot, so it's just getting water everywhere all over these electronics. So it gives you this anxiety now. Then we have this lady on the TV telling us that there's a plutonium theft. And you're like, what? What the fuck does that mean? Not really sure. And then there's this crazy looking machine that opens up a dog food can and dumps it. But then there's already dog food there. And you're like, what the fuck? Is there a dog? I don't know what is going on. This is crazy. Then we see Marty come in. Who is this kid? He starts turning shit on, plays the guitar, slips on his skateboard, and then we see a plutonium case. And you're like, okay, so this guy stole the plutonium. Like, and there's just millions and millions of questions racing through your head. Who is this guy? Why is Marty here? Who's he talking to? There's a dog. Why does this dog sleep next to a picture of Einstein next to him? I mean, it's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy introduction.
And then when we go back in time, he has 4 portraits of different great thinkers, and then in his garage 30 years later, he only has 2. I think it's Newton and Thomas Edison. So I'm thinking, what happened between you and the other guys?
That's funny. It's hilarious, and it's not explained, and you kind of have to read into it. But when you read into it, it's so funny, and it just gives so much charm to Doc's character. Because the whole time I'm thinking, why did he set these clocks late? Who does that? Which all of the props, all of the sets, and maybe not the costume work because no one's wearing anything crazy, just normal 80s clothing. I guess besides Doc has his lab wear. But the props and the sets are awesome. I can't get over it. How did you feel about the ending of the movie? Specifically, being left on a sort of cliffhanger when Doc tells them, let's go, Marty. We got shit to do. And it's funny that I saw Rick and Morty before seeing this, because that's such a Rick thing to say.
I mean, as far as cliffhanger endings go, it's really great because Marty shows up. His life is going to be completely different. He hasn't gotten used to it. He's been here for 5 seconds. And then Doc shows up in a panic, telling him he needs to go when we already have a problem on our hands. Now we have another problem on our hands. God knows what Doc's gotten into. And so, I mean, if I was Marty, I would just probably kiss my life goodbye, and that this is really it, probably.
Because I was reading that Robert wasn't anticipating a sequel. So that's weird, at least to me, to end on a cliffhanger if you're not anticipating a sequel.
Yeah, I don't agree so much because of the nature of the cliffhanger and that it's endlessly open-ended. It's not setting anything up.
Okay.
But that's funny that he didn't expect a sequel.
Yeah. Because I guess the craziest cliffhanger I've ever seen in all my entire life is in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I've seen movies that have a part 1, part 2. The Deathly Hallows has that. The Twilight films have that. Hunger Games has that. But I have never been quite cliffhanged like I was in this movie. And gave me those kinds of vibes, being left on not an unfinished story, but a crazier story about to happen.
Yeah, it would have been kind of like if Marty came back and his life was completely upside down and his family was, I don't know, homeless, or they were dead or something kind of thing. That's the kind of ending that I think demands a little bit more of a correction course, at least, you know, for our characters to have that happy ending. Of course, we don't need to have happy endings. I'm all for the sad ending.
Yeah, get out of here. I'm all for happy endings. My life is too depressing to not have to live vicariously through happy ending movies.
Well, man, thank you for watching this movie with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for making me watch this. I don't know if I would have watched it on my own. Thinking it's too late for that for me.
Do you have a budget guess?
My budget guess is 15 million. I'm thinking 15-20 million, but I'm not sure of its time. I'm not sure how much goes into a movie. We don't have crazy effects here. It seems like it's all practical. but we have just enough that we spent a little bit of money here. The movie's an hour 56 minutes, normal movie time. So I wasn't sure. I'm not confident in my budget guess whatsoever.
Yeah, Robert seems like the respectable type too.
Yeah.
None of this $100 million bullshit.
Yes.
Well, it says here that it was 19 million.
Ooh, not bad.
And it went on to make 388 million.
What?
So that's why they said, all right, we need a couple more of these.
We need you to make some more. Oh my gosh, that is insane.
And over on Letterboxd, with 2.54 million people, they weighed in at a 4.2.
4.2?
It's crazy high.
That's pretty high. That's pretty loved. That's pretty loved.
I think this is probably one of the most loved movies of the 80s, especially of nerd culture.
I'm giving this a 3.5, maybe a 4. I loved it. I don't know if I quite love it like The Karate Kid. The Karate Kid it's good. It's so good. I gave The Karate Kid a 4.5.
Oh, snap.
So this is fitting with my Karate Kid score.
Yeah, I think Back to the Future is way better than The Karate Kid.
Way better than Karate Kid?
Yes. I don't know what I'm going to give Back to the Future. It's floating between a 3 and a 3.5. It doesn't offer a lot of powerful storytelling for me outside of its lean, no messing around, no wasting time kind of thing.
Did you like Rick and Morty?
It's fine. It's just like any other Adult Swim show.
Okay. I loved Rick and Morty. Did you play Pocket Morty?
No. I don't play phone games.
Ah, yeah, right.
But yeah, man, thank you again for talking about this movie, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Film of Steins. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday and Friday with brand new episodes of The Film of Steins, and every other Wednesday on patreon.com/filmofsteins for Patreon exclusive episodes like our recent Saw ranking. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas. Our next episode will be on Forrest Gump.
Yes.
The movie by Republicans for Republicans.
Nope.
Isn't that what?
No.
Isn't that what they say?
No one says that.
So please look forward to that. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe. Come request a movie. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon, at patreon.com/filmsteins, and follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is The Filmsteins, signing off.